Phoebe. Thanks for joining us this evening. Obviously, it's a tough act to follow, having Andy Woolmer gone before. And to be honest, if I'm honest with you, I'm quite surprised that we've lasted 2 episodes. But here we are on episode number 2. Would you like to, in similar fashion to last time, would you like to introduce yourself to anyone who's watching?
So I'm Phoebe Horner, daughter of esteemed referee Daryl Horner, and I've been reffing for 10 seasons now, with a bit of a break when I went to uni, but 10 seasons. Mainly in youth, started with men's a few years back, and bits and bobs of women's football as well. So a bit of everything, really.
So which level do you currently operate at then, if you don't mind me asking?
So actually, literally just got level 4 promotion. So in the men's pathway to level 4. I was level 7 for years and years because I was a little bit scared of taking the jump into men's football. So yeah, I kind of stayed level 7 for a while and then sort of went 7 to 6, 6 to 5, and then 5 to 4 within 3 years or so. And then I also got level 3W promotion in the women's pathway. So that's really, really good. So
congratulations.
Thank you. It's a bit scary.
So you mentioned about not being totally sure about the jump into adult football. Was there anything that kind of made you feel like that, and anything that subsequently drove you to do it?
I think for ages, so I started when I was 17. So mathematicians can work out my age based on that. But yeah, I started when I was 17. So I was definitely always just sort of doing youth, like under 12s and all that business, thinking that was scary to start with. And then sort of just kind of went up and up to under 18s. And then I found myself just doing loads of under 18s boys games on the NDYAL. So then I was like, that's pretty much like doing adults. So I was a bit scared because I'd heard, I've heard from Dad, he would come home and talk about his games and say, oh, this happened, they swore, they did this. And I think as a young female, I was a little bit worried about how they'd react to me differently to how they'd react to a bloke. I found actually, I think I probably get it a bit easier than men in the game. But I don't know because I don't have that comparison. But I feel like I do sometimes. I have a bit more of a backup from players than maybe you would as a male referee. But yeah, so then I sort of thought, well, if I'm doing under 18 boys and they're sort of basically at that kind of adult level, then what's the difference in jump? So sort of went through it about 5 years ago, maybe.
And was anything particularly influential during that time that you decided to make the jump?
I mean, I became a teacher 5 years ago, so school teacher, secondary school. So I think I built up my confidence in that way. There's a lot of transferable skills back and forth, to be fair, between refereeing and teaching. That's why I think a lot of teachers and, police officers, those types of professions become referees because you've got that transferable skill. But I think I'd built up my confidence in being able to deal with that. And then also I'd started doing lines on things like the senior youth and the UCL. So I was doing assistant refereeing in that. So I got a bit confident kind of watching other referees do it and being part of the team that was doing it. So I thought, actually, I can probably take the jump to do the middles at that point. So that's kind of the step.
What would you say have been the high points throughout your career? Because obviously you're still on a progression pathway. I assume you want to go as far as you can.
Yeah.
What have been your kind of major high points?
It's been pretty recent, to be fair, all the high points. I got accepted onto the women's referee emerging talent pathway, which was a big deal for me. So then I got a coach. So I got Richard Fullix as my coach to kind of help me through in the women's pathway. And I think that was a big thing because then, kind of, not through that, but as part of that, then I got to referee an international women's under 16s game, which was massive for me. It was freezing cold, but it was a great game. And then also got to do a 4th official on the WSL Academy Plate final. So just experiencing that kind of higher level of game was a massive deal because I'd never sort of experienced that before. So being exposed to that was really big. I think being the first female official on a Northamptonshire men's county cup final was a pretty big deal. and not screwing it up. So that was good. That was nice. There was the Area Cup, I think it was, at Kettering Town. So Burton Park, was it? No, where was it? Was it Rawns?
I don't know where it was, but I remember seeing the icon, the little logo. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't remember where it was, but that was a big deal, I think, because it shouldn't be necessarily, because there shouldn't really be a difference if you're a woman or a man. But I think that we've seen that the women's game is progressing so much, and that we're getting so many more female officials through, that it was sort of nice to be the kind of first to do that and sort of start the ball rolling on that just being a normal thing.
Trailblazer.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
But I think so. Obviously, you just alluded to the fact that you were essentially the first female official to do a male County Cup final. An adult male County Cup final. How do you manage kind of being one of the few female officials operating in that environment, if that makes sense?
No, I get what you mean, because you don't very rarely come across another woman. In fact, I think I've may come across one or two in the men's game for 5 years, and it's difficult in that sense. You just have a different persona, I suppose. I feel like once you start refereeing the game, the players then don't care who you are. I think there's a perception before the game and when you turn up that kind of people might be a little bit judge you a bit differently. But as soon as you referee, I think the treatment's pretty much the same. So I think it's more about just you being confident and a firm handshake and just being like, well, actually, I'm not going to be a bit of a walkover, pushover referee here. It's I can do this equally as well as anybody else. So
it's not better.
I'd hope.
Very modest. Very
Can't
modest.
Can't guarantee.
And I said this to Andy in the first episode. I don't like dwelling on this necessarily, but I think it's important to talk about it. There have been any particular low points, any times when you thought, actually, this isn't worth it? And how have you got through those? I
think everyone goes through that. I think it would be weird if as a referee you didn't. And I think it was this just gone season near Christmas, just before Christmas, that I had a run of just some really horrible games, and I don't think I was on top form, to be fair. I think I was doing too many games, so I was tired. I wasn't kind of giving my all into them, and so I just had some horrible experiences, and I was just like, well, what's the point? Because it just felt like there was no appreciation. You were just kind of doing it, and I was like, why am I giving up my weekend to be shouted at, And it sort of took a little bit of a gap over Christmas, and thought I'll get back into it in the new year, and then had some really high points immediately afterwards. So you sort of go, you think you're a bad referee when stuff like that goes wrong. And as much as you want to reflect on what you've done to improve yourself, because there was definitely parts of those games that I would change, and I'm quite reflective in that sense. But also some games people are just horrible. So you just kind of got to go, let it wash over, reset, and then carry on. But yeah, it was sort of this season, actually, it was, I think that going for promotion and just having a lot on felt quite overwhelming. So
yeah, I remember speaking to you at various points, and I think given you've got quite an intense job and stuff like that, as well as the fact that you've actually you applied for promotion and were successful on both pathways, that's not an easy thing to do, and I think you dealt with it really well. And like you say, it's just about bouncing back, because inevitably not everyone's going to be happy with what you do, are they?
No, you can never win. So yeah.
Great. Finally then, what advice, if any, would you give to a young referee, perhaps a young female referee just starting out on their career? Obviously, it's a bit of a shameless plug, but we've obviously ran our female-only referee course in Kettering recently. Obviously, they're going to be starting refereeing very soon, but equally, there's a number of other female officials that we've got within the county, particularly young female officials. What advice would you give to them?
I think that it's good to sort of expand your network as much as you can. I think I've been very lucky in the sense that my dad referees, so I've always been able to come home from a game and talk to him about it, and he talks to me about his games. So having that sort of immediate advice is really, really useful from someone who knows the game. And I think that for a young referee, having a network of people that you can talk to and sort of when you have those bad games, being able to go, was it me, or what could I have done, and actually being able to talk about it is useful. I think for females, I think you've got to not, especially if you're operating in the men's game or boys football predominantly, is not get affected by the fact that you will be perceived differently, because it's a fact that you will be, and there'll be those sort of looks and those moments where they go, oh, it's a woman, oh, you know, and that happens, and you just kind of got to go, well, I'm going to prove to you that it doesn't matter anyway. So just as a female official, try not to care about that, because if you let it get to you and think, oh, you know, they think I'm not going to be very good, and start panicking, then it's going to affect your game, when ultimately, like you said, equally as good, if not better, than any of your male counterparts. So and just, you know, treat every game like it's the most important game of the weekend, because for someone it is. And I think that's the best advice I've ever had, was just, you know, that game is the most important game for those kids or men or boys, girls playing that game. So treat it like that and give it your all and turn up professional, you know, on time, looking good, all of that business.
Well, that's great advice. I love that. I think that's great. You're certainly someone that I know that people look up to, and genuinely speaking, from our point of view, we're delighted to have had you on the progression pathway this season. Like I said, you're very modest anyway, probably cringing at the thought, but seriously, you've done a really good job this season, so well done.
Thank you.
Real achievement. You've worked really hard, deserved it, absolutely, you know, wholeheartedly. So well done, and onwards and upwards.
Thank you very much.